5 years of carefully rehearsed courage brought her to this moment, standing tall as the limousine door opened. His face froze in recognition as 3 miniature versions of himself stared back with his own eyes. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. The sound of a Mont Blanc pen clicking against Italian marble was what Amanda would remember most. Not his words, not her tears, but that methodical, irritating click, click, click as Justin Blackwood signed the check that was supposed to erase her from his life. $100,000. Justin's voice was corporate meeting calm as Chicago's winter twilight cast long shadows across his penthouse apartment. That should be more than sufficient to handle things. Amanda Collins stared at the check on the counter, her fingers instinctively finding the small scar on her chin. Outside, snow was beginning to fall over Lake Michigan, delicate flakes that would soon turn to slush on city streets. Inside, 3 years of love was ending with financial transaction. Handle things? Her voice cracked despite her determination to maintain dignity. Is that what we're calling it now? Our relationship? Or the baby? Which thing needs handling, Justin? He didn't look up as he methodically folded designer shirts into a leather weekend bag, each movement precise, as if packing for a business trip rather than walking out on the woman he'd said he loved. Don't be dramatic, Amanda. We both knew this was temporary. Temporary? Amanda's hands flew up, her Oklahoma accent thickening with emotion. You asked me to move in with you. You introduced me to your board members at Christmas. Justin finally looked up, his blue-gray eyes meeting hers with practiced corporate directness that never revealed his true thoughts. And now I'm making a correction. Business decisions require adjustments when circumstances change. Amanda felt the room tilt. Our baby is a changed circumstance? A waitress from Oklahoma was charming for a while. His voice turned cold, practiced, as if he'd rehearsed this speech. But Blackwood Industries needs strategic alliances, not distractions. My mother was right. This was never going to work. 3 years earlier, Amanda had been working double shifts at Lakeside Bistro, saving every penny for her education courses. She'd noticed him immediately. Everyone noticed Justin Blackwood when he entered a room, but she'd been too busy balancing 5 plates along her arm to care about another rich businessman. "Excuse me," he'd said, catching her elbow as she rushed past. "That server dropped this." He held out her course schedule that had fallen from her apron pocket. Introduction to Childhood Educational Development? He'd raised an eyebrow, actually seeming interested. Unusual reading material for fine dining. I'm a waitress who wants to be a teacher. She'd smiled, taking the paper. Thanks for not letting my dreams get trampled under someone's Louboutins. He'd laughed then, genuinely laughed, something rare enough that his lunch companions had looked up in surprise. Justin Blackwood, he'd said, extending his hand. Amanda Collins, she'd replied, shifting her tray to shake it. And before you ask, yes, I know who you are, and no, I'm not impressed by family fortunes, but I appreciate the rescue of my schedule. He'd returned every Tuesday for lunch after that, always requesting her section. I need someone of my level, Amanda. Justin's voice cut through her memory, sharp as the winter wind outside. Someone who understands my world. Amanda grabbed the edge of the kitchen island, marble cold under her fingertips. You told me you loved that I wasn't from your world, that I saw things differently. I was mistaken. Each word precise, surgical. The novelty wore off. Amanda watched him zip the weekend bag, her mind racing through options, plans, anything to hold her world together. She'd left everything behind for him, her small apartment, her full scholarship back in Oklahoma, her mother's warnings about men with too much money and too little character. What about the baby? Her voice was barely audible. Justin checked his Patek Philippe watch, another practiced gesture. That's what the check is for, to take care of it, discreetly. The implication struck her like physical blow. Her hand moved protectively to her still flat stomach. "You want me to? I want you to be practical." He straightened his already perfect tie. "A child would ruin everything. Your education, my position. My mother would never accept." "Stop hiding behind Victoria." Amanda's voice rose, tears finally spilling. "This is about you, not her. You're a coward, Justin Blackwood." Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, regret, fear, before the corporate mask slipped back into place. "You have until the end of the month to vacate the apartment." He picked up his bag. "My lawyers will contact you about a confidentiality agreement." Amanda lunged forward, grabbing his arm. "Look at me. Just look at me and tell me you don't love me, that the last 3 years meant nothing." For a moment, Justin froze, his carefully constructed facade wavering. His hand twitched, almost reaching for her before dropping back to his side. "You were never going to fit into my life," he said finally, each word falling like ice. "A waitress from Oklahoma with community college dreams doesn't belong in the Blackwood legacy. You were a temporary error in judgment." The door closed behind him with a soft, expensive click. Amanda stood motionless in the center of the apartment that had never really been hers, surrounded by furniture she hadn't chosen and art she couldn't name. Outside, Chicago continued its relentless pace, indifferent to one more broken heart in its skyline. Her phone buzzed. The doctor's office, confirming what the 3 home tests had already told her. She slid down against the kitchen island until she sat on the cold floor, still in the uniform from her teaching assistant job. The check for $100,000 fluttered from the counter, landing beside her. "It's just you and me now," she whispered to her stomach, one hand protectively curved over it. "But we're going to be okay." She didn't know yet about the morning sickness that would start tomorrow, or that in 6 weeks, an ultrasound technician would gasp and say, "Ms. Collins, there's not just one heartbeat here." She didn't know yet about the 3 identical boys growing inside her, each with Justin's jawline already forming in miniature. She knew only that she was alone in an apartment she'd be evicted from soon, with winter pressing against the windows and a check that represented exactly how little 3 years of her life had been worth to Justin Blackwood. Amanda picked up the check, its crisp paper between her fingers. With deliberate slowness, she tore it into pieces, letting them fall around her like expensive confetti. "We don't need his money," she told her unborn child, steel entering her voice. "And we're going to make sure he regrets this every day for the rest of his life." Outside, Chicago's lights began to glitter against the darkening sky, stars of opportunity and possibility. Amanda Collins sat on the floor until midnight, making plans, unaware that the child she was protecting would soon become 3 separate heartbeats, 3 identical faces, 3 living reminders of the man who had walked away. Tulsa's summer heat pressed against the windows like a living thing, making the small kitchen feel even smaller. Amanda Collins sat at her mother's worn Formica table, watching Sophia Miller aggressively chop vegetables with the precision of someone who'd spent decades measuring medications. "You're murdering those carrots, Mom," Amanda said, one hand resting on her now visible baby bump. 3 months had passed since Chicago, since Justin, since the night she'd torn up a check worth more than her mother's house. "These carrots deserve it," Sophia replied without looking up, the knife hitting the cutting board with rhythmic thuds. "Unlike some people I could name who deserve much worse." Amanda sighed, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She'd cut it short after returning to Oklahoma, a small act of reinvention. "Can we not talk about him, please?" Sophia paused, pointing the knife in her daughter's direction. "Amanda Jane Miller." "Collins, Mom. Still Collins. Not in this house, not on my birth certificate, and not in my prayers." Sophia resumed chopping. "And yes, I still pray for that man. I pray he gets exactly what he deserves." The window air conditioner rattled, struggling against the Oklahoma heat. 3 months ago, Amanda had lived in a climate-controlled penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. Now she was back in her childhood bedroom, pregnant and jobless, with an education degree 3 credits shy of completion. "I keep thinking I should have seen it coming," Amanda said quietly. He'd get these calls from his mother and just change, like someone flipped a switch. Sophia snorted. "Men don't need a reason to run, honey. Your father left over burnt toast and a midlife crisis. Justin said I'd never fit into his world." Amanda's fingers found the scar on her chin. That a waitress from Oklahoma with a community college education was a temporary error. The chopping stopped. Sophia set down the knife and crossed the small kitchen, her nurse's efficient movements bringing her to Amanda's side. Despite her harsh words, Sophia's hands were gentle as they covered her daughter's. "Look at me, Amanda Jane." Amanda raised her eyes to meet her mother's, the same gray-green as her own, but weathered by decades of night shifts and single motherhood. "That man did you a favor," Sophia said firmly. "You think I don't know what you've been doing every night on that laptop, planning how to show him up, plotting your grand revenge?" Amanda flushed. "It's not revenge, it's justice. Call it whatever helps you sleep at night." Sophia squeezed her hands. "But babies don't care about justice or revenge. They need diapers and formula and a mother who isn't burning herself up with hate." "I don't hate him," Amanda whispered. "That's what scares me. I should hate him, but instead I keep wondering what I did wrong." The slap of Sophia's hand on the table made Amanda jump. "Nothing. You did nothing wrong except trust a man who had everything handed to him his whole life." Sophia's voice cracked with fierce protection. "Your father left when you were 7 and you still graduated top of your class while working 2 jobs. You think I don't know what that took? You're 10 times stronger than any Blackwood." Amanda blinked back tears. "I'm scared, Mom." "Good. Fear keeps you alert." Sophia returned to her chopping. "Babies are terrifying. They should be. They break you open and rebuild you stronger." The ultrasound technician's eyes widened, her hand freezing on Amanda's rounded belly. "Ms. Collins, I'm going to get the doctor." Amanda's heart stuttered. "Is something wrong with my baby?" The technician's professional smile flickered. "Babies, Ms. Collins. Plural." 20 minutes later, Amanda stared at the monitor in disbelief as Dr. Reyes pointed out 3 distinct heartbeats, 3 tiny spines, 3 perfect profiles. "Identical triplets," Dr. Reyes explained, her brow furrowed with professional concern. "Extremely rare without fertility treatments. High-risk pregnancy, especially given your—" "Given my what?" Amanda interrupted. "Your single status, financial situation." The doctor's eyes flicked to Amanda's address form. "These pregnancies often require bed rest, specialized care." Amanda thought of the torn-up check on Justin's apartment floor, of his cold voice saying a child, one child, would ruin everything. "Will they be healthy?" she asked. "They appear to be developing normally, but with multiples this identical, there are risks of shared blood vessels, premature birth, low birth weight." Amanda tuned out the doctor's voice, focusing instead on the 3 flickering heartbeats on the screen. 3 hearts, 3 children, 3 perfect weapons in the war Justin Blackwood didn't yet know was coming. "Ms. Collins, did you hear me? I asked if you've considered reduction. Many women carrying multiples choose to—" "No." Amanda's voice was steel. "Not an option." "Triplets?" Sophia collapsed into her recliner, hand pressed to her chest. "Sweet Jesus, Mary and Joseph." "Identical," Amanda added, showing her mother the ultrasound printout. "The doctor said it's like winning a genetic lottery, odds-wise." Sophia stared at the grainy image. 3 babies, 3 of the exact same baby. Her eyes narrowed. "Do they look like him?" Amanda's laugh was brittle. "They're the size of plums, Mom. They don't look like anyone yet. But they would. She knew they would." By month 6, Amanda was effectively bedridden, her small frame struggling to carry 3 growing boys. Her mother had postponed retirement to help with expenses, returning to night shifts at St. John's Medical Center. "Amanda Jane, if you don't put down that laptop, I will sedate you myself," Sophia called from the doorway, still in her scrubs. "I'm finalizing my business plan," Amanda replied without looking up. "There's a gap in educational technology for children with learning disabilities. Did you know Justin has dyslexia?" He mentioned it once, how he had to memorize everything because reading was torture. Sophia sighed, crossing to the bed to check Amanda's swollen ankles with professional detachment. "And this matters because these babies might have it too, and because there's a market need." Amanda's fingers flew across the keyboard. "I've been researching existing platforms while on bed rest. They're all terrible, designed by programmers who've never taught real children." Sophia pressed her lips together. "You're supposed to be resting, not launching a company." "I'm supposed to be finishing my degree and starting my teaching career," Amanda countered. "Instead, I'm stuck in bed growing 3 humans who will need college funds and braces and a mother who isn't working herself to death before they're even born." Amanda closed the laptop reluctantly. "I need to do this, Mom. Not just for them, but for me. I need to prove that you're better than what he thinks of you." Sophia sat on the edge of the bed. "I know, baby. But first, you need to survive." Survival became less certain at week 32 when Amanda's blood pressure spiked dangerously. "Emergency C-section," Dr. Reyes announced after reviewing the monitors. "We can't wait any longer." The operating room was blindingly bright, the anesthesiologist's voice soothing as consciousness began to slip away from Amanda. "Where's my mother?" she asked, panic rising. "On her way," a nurse assured her. "She was finishing her shift downstairs." "I can't do this alone," Amanda whispered as the drugs pulled her under. "Not again." She woke to the sound of steady beeping and her mother's voice. "Amanda Jane, open your eyes. There are 3 very small gentlemen here who need to meet you." Amanda's eyes fluttered open. The room swam into focus. Hospital white, machinery, and her mother's exhausted face. "The babies?" Her voice was raw. "All alive. All tiny, all identical," Sophia confirmed. 4 pounds each, which the doctors say is a miracle for triplets. And all with their father's jawline, God help us. A nurse approached, carrying a tightly swaddled bundle. "Ready to meet your sons, Ms. Collins? One at a time. They're still monitoring the other 2 in the NICU." The nurse placed the tiny bundle in Amanda's arms. She looked down into a face that was somehow both strange and familiar. Justin's chin, her eyes, a perfect miniature human with translucent skin and a fierce grip that latched onto her finger. "Ethan," she whispered, the name she'd chosen for the firstborn. "Ethan Miller." "Collins," her mother corrected softly. "Your name, your legacy." Amanda shook her head, determination hardening in her chest as she stared at her son's face. "No, Miller. Your name, Mom. The name of someone who never walked away." Later, when all 3 boys had been briefly introduced, Ethan, Noah, and Mason, and returned to their incubators, Amanda lay in the darkened hospital room while her mother dozed in the visitor's chair. "I promise," she whispered to the empty air, imagining her words traveling down the hallway to the NICU where her sons fought for every breath. "I promise you'll never need him. I'll build something so big, so important, that one day he'll look up and see your faces on magazine covers, and he'll know exactly what he threw away." Outside the hospital window, Oklahoma's flat horizon was giving way to dawn, the sun rising on the first day of Amanda Collins's new life as a mother of 3. "Mama, this one's broken." 2-year-old Ethan Miller frowned at the alphabet block in his small hand, turning it over with methodical precision. Amanda looked up from where she was helping Noah stack a tower. "What's broken about it, sweetie?" "The E is backward." Ethan's tiny forehead wrinkled with concentration. "It's wrong." Amanda gently took the block, examining the perfectly normal letter E. "It looks right to me, buddy." "No." Ethan shook his head firmly. "It's facing the wrong way." A memory surfaced, Justin squinting at a contract, asking his assistant to summarize the key points, rather than reading it himself. Justin memorizing presentations word for word instead of using note cards. Justin admitting, after too many whiskeys one night, that words sometimes danced on the page when he was tired. Mason toddled over, snatching the block from her hand. "My turn," he announced, his social confidence already evident at 2. From across their small living room, Dr. Eleanor Chen watched the interaction with professional interest. The developmental specialist had agreed to evaluate the triplets as a favor to Sophia, who had once cared for her father in the oncology ward. "Ms. Collins, could I speak with you privately?" Dr. Chen asked, closing her observation notebook. Amanda's heart clenched. "Boys, Grandma put a new show on the iPad. 10 minutes only, okay?" The triplets scrambled toward the kitchen where Sophia was preparing lunch, identical backs retreating in perfect synchronization. "What's wrong with them?" Amanda asked once they were alone. Dr. Chen smiled reassuringly. "Nothing's wrong with them. They're developing beautifully in most areas, but I'm seeing some early indicators of possible dyslexia, particularly in Ethan." "Dyslexia," Amanda repeated the word softly. "Their father has it. Had it. Has it." She stumbled over the tense, still uncertain how to refer to Justin, a man very much alive but dead to their daily existence. "It often has genetic components," Dr. Chen confirmed. "The good news is that early intervention makes an enormous difference. The challenging news is that with triplets, if one shows signs, the others might too," Amanda finished. "What kind of intervention?" Dr. Chen began outlining specialized approaches, but Amanda's mind was already racing ahead. The colorful flashcards she'd created for the boys, the songs she'd composed to help them remember sequences, the tactile alphabet she'd crafted from different textured fabrics, all methods she'd intuitively developed during late nights between feeding sessions. "Exactly like the materials you've already created," Dr. Chen was saying when Amanda tuned back in. "Those textured letters are remarkably similar to professional dyslexia tools." Amanda blinked. "They're just something I made from fabric scraps." "They're brilliant," Dr. Chen countered. "The color coding system you've developed for phonetic sounds, the multisensory approach, these are advanced techniques. I just noticed what worked." Amanda shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "Ethan learns differently than Noah, who learns differently than Mason. I had to get creative." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Have you considered developing these materials professionally? There's a significant gap in the educational technology market for truly effective dyslexia interventions." Amanda laughed, the sound hollow. "I'm a single mom with triplets and a part-time online teaching job. When exactly would I develop educational technology?" "The Oklahoma Educational Innovation Fair is next month," Dr. Chen pressed, writing something on her prescription pad. "Talk to this woman, she's the organizer. Just think about it." "You're actually considering this." Sophia set down 3 identical plates of mac and cheese in front of the triplets, each portioned to their particular preferences. Ethan's neatly separated, Noah's with extra cheese, Mason's with hidden vegetables. "It's just a conversation." Amanda wiped Noah's hands before he could smear cheese on his shirt. "The fair coordinator seemed interested when I called." "And who's watching these 3 while you're having this conversation?" Sophia arched an eyebrow. As if on cue, Mason flung a spoonful of mac and cheese, landing a perfect hit on Ethan's head. Ethan's lower lip trembled while Noah stared wide-eyed at the impending disaster. "No throw food!" Amanda intercepted Ethan's retaliatory handful. "Mason, apologize to your brother." "Sorry," Mason mumbled without a trace of actual remorse. "I take your point," Amanda sighed to her mother, "but Dr. Chen thinks my materials could help other children." Sophia wiped cheese from Ethan's hair with practiced efficiency. And the fact that this could be your chance to prove Justin wrong has nothing to do with your interest? Amanda's cheeks flushed. This isn't about him. Everything has been about him since you came home pregnant. Sophia's voice softened. Which is understandable, honey. But these boys deserve a mother who's moving forward, not looking backward. Maybe this is moving forward, Amanda whispered. Maybe this is finally finding a purpose in all of this mess. The Oklahoma Educational Innovation Fair occupied half a ballroom in a mid-range Tulsa hotel. Amanda stood behind a card table, nervously adjusting her display of handmade educational materials. Beside her, a college student she'd hired as a babysitter managed the triplets with harried determination. "Ethan, please stop reorganizing the brochures," Amanda said, catching his small hand. "They're supposed to be in stacks." "Wrong colors together," he insisted, already showing his methodical nature. Noah clung to her leg, overwhelmed by the noise and crowds, while Mason confidently greeted every passerby with a cheerful, "Hi!" "This was a mistake," Amanda muttered as Noah began to whimper. Her carefully prepared display looked amateur next to professional booths with banners and technology demonstrations. Interesting approach. Amanda looked up to find a man studying her textured alphabet pieces. He was maybe 40, with an easy confidence that spoke of success without arrogance. His casual attire, expensive jeans, no tie, stood out among the educator's budget professional wear. "They're nothing special," Amanda said reflexively, "just prototypes." "I disagree." He picked up one of her handmade tactile flashcards. "The multisensory integration is sophisticated. Did you develop these commercially?" Amanda laughed, the sound slightly hysterical as Mason chose that moment to announce loudly that he needed the bathroom. "Do I look like I'm running a commercial operation?" The man's eyes crinkled with genuine amusement. "You look like someone solving a real problem with limited resources. That's where the best innovations come from." He extended his hand. "Carlos Rodriguez. I'm with Horizon Educational Ventures." Amanda's eyes widened slightly in recognition. Even in Oklahoma, people knew about Horizon, one of the leading investors in educational technology. Amanda Collins. She hesitated before adding, "And these are Ethan, Noah, and Mason." Carlos crouched down to the boy's level. "3 identical engineers in training. Excellent." He held out his hand to Mason, who high-fived it immediately. "What are you building here?" "Helping kids who see letters wrong," Mason announced proudly. "Like me," Ethan added quietly. "And me sometimes," Noah whispered. Carlos's expression shifted subtly, professional interest deepening into something more personal. "My nephew has dyslexia," he said, straightening up. "Most educational apps are designed by programmers who've never worked with actual children." "Exactly!" Amanda's passion momentarily overcame her exhaustion. "They don't account for different learning styles or attention spans or the emotional component of learning disabilities." "Tell me more about your approach," Carlos said, pulling up a chair from a neighboring booth that had already packed up. For the next 30 minutes, Amanda explained her methods while the babysitter took the boys for promised ice cream. As she talked, Carlos asked questions that revealed both technical knowledge and genuine understanding of educational challenges. "So that's it," Amanda concluded, suddenly self-conscious. "Just a teacher's homemade solution." "That's not just anything," Carlos countered. "You've built something effective from first-hand experience. That's gold in this industry." "It's finger paint and fabric scraps," Amanda corrected. "It's a minimum viable product." Carlos reached into his pocket, extracting a business card. "Have you considered developing this into a digital platform?" Amanda barked out a laugh. "With what time? Or money? Or technical knowledge? Those are all solvable problems." Carlos handed her the card. "What's not easily replicated is your understanding of how these children learn. The technical aspects can be hired." "You're suggesting I start a company?" Amanda stated it flatly, the absurdity overwhelming. I'm suggesting you already have. Carlos gestured to her display. It's just currently limited to 3 very lucky boys. The babysitter returned, the triplets' faces smeared with chocolate despite her best efforts. Mama, look! Mason held up a slightly melted ice cream cone. The lady gave us extra. Because they were so polite, the frazzled sitter explained, though her expression suggested politeness hadn't been the triplets' defining characteristic. Noah immediately pressed against Amanda's legs, while Ethan began methodically wiping his hands with a napkin. Carlos watched the interaction with thoughtful interest. You've got your hands full, he observed without judgment. That's one way to put it. Amanda smiled tiredly. Email me a business plan, Carlos said, standing. Nothing fancy. Just outline how you'd scale this if resources weren't an issue. Why would you be interested in a random mom from a local fair? Amanda asked bluntly. Carlos considered her for a moment. Because education technology needs people who understand both the tech and the education. You clearly understand the learning challenges intimately. He glanced at the triplets, and frankly, anyone who can manage identical triplets while developing innovative teaching materials has exactly the kind of determination startups require. After he left, Amanda stared at the business card in her hand, embossed with the Horizon logo. Did you hear that, boys? She whispered. Someone thinks Mama's onto something. Ice cream all gone, Noah observed sadly. Card has a picture, Ethan pointed to the Horizon logo. That man was nice, Mason declared with a toddler's confident assessment. Amanda tucked the card carefully into her wallet. For the first time since returning to Oklahoma, she felt something beyond survival mode, a tiny spark of possibility, of potential. That night, after the triplets were asleep, she opened her laptop and began typing. TripTech Educational Solutions, Business Plan. The name made her smile, a small private joke, a nod to the 3 identical inspirations sleeping down the hall, and perhaps a tiny acknowledgement of the man whose abandonment had inadvertently set her on this path. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how TripTech's adaptive learning platform has helped over 2 million children with dyslexia unlock their potential. Amanda's voice rang clear through the ballroom's perfect acoustics. Because every child deserves education that meets them where they are. The audience erupted in applause as she concluded her acceptance speech. Under the crystal chandeliers of New York's Waldorf Astoria, Amanda Miller, she had taken her mother's surname legally last year, stood poised in Armani, a far cry from the shattered woman who had once sat on a Chicago apartment floor. In the front row, 3 identical 4-year-old boys in matching suits watched their mother with expressions that ranged from Ethan's serious pride to Noah's quiet wonder to Mason's uncontained excitement. As she stepped away from the podium, Amanda caught sight of Justin Blackwood across the room. He hadn't moved since the moment she'd arrived, his face frozen in the same shock that had registered when she'd exited the limousine with 3 miniature versions of himself. 4 years earlier, Amanda had sat cross-legged on her mother's living room floor, surrounded by programming books while the triplets slept in the portable cribs crammed into the small space. "It's 2 a.m., Sophia observed, entering in her nightgown. Those babies will be up in 3 hours. I know. Amanda didn't look up from her laptop. I'm just finishing this tutorial on JavaScript. Sophia sighed, settling into her recliner. You've been at this for months. When do you sleep? Sleep is for people who don't have something to prove. Amanda rubbed her eyes. Carlos is connecting me with developers next week. I need to understand enough to not sound completely ignorant. Carlos, Sophia repeated with meaningful emphasis, the handsome investor who keeps finding reasons to visit Tulsa. Amanda's cheeks colored slightly. He's interested in the business potential. Sophia picked up one of Amanda's prototype flashcards. And how's the actual product coming along? The basic app framework is done. We're testing with 10 local schools next month. Amanda's exhaustion melted into excitement. The algorithm adapts to each child's specific learning patterns. The more they use it, the more personalized it becomes. Like you do with the boys, Sophia observed. You've always given each of them exactly what they need, even though they look identical. Amanda's gaze drifted to the sleeping triplets. At 18 months, they were already showing distinct personalities. Ethan methodically arranging blocks by color, Noah living in his imagination, Mason charming everyone he met. "That's the whole point," she said softly. "Every child is different, even identical triplets. Why should their education be one size fits all?" Quite the impressive speech, Amanda. She turned to find Justin standing too close, his familiar cologne bringing unwelcome memories. Here, in a quiet corner of the ballroom, away from the main crowd, she could see the subtle signs of aging around his eyes that magazine covers airbrushed away. "Justin." She kept her voice neutral, professional. "I'm surprised you stayed for the entire gala. You dropped quite the bombshell." His eyes darted to where the triplets sat with Carlos at the Horizon Ventures table. "I think I'm entitled to a conversation." "Entitled." Amanda smiled thinly. Interesting word choice. Justin's carefully cultivated composure slipped. "They're my sons. Biologically, yes." Amanda took a calculated sip of champagne. "In every way that matters, no." "We got it!" Amanda screamed into the phone, spinning around her small office, formerly her mother's sewing room. "The Edison Foundation grant, $3 million. Carlos's laugh came through the speaker. "I never doubted it for a second. Your pilot program results were off the charts." "We can scale nationally now," Amanda said breathlessly. "Hire real developers, not just contractors. Maybe even get an actual office that isn't my mom's house." "About that," Carlos said, "I think it's time you considered relocating to New York." Amanda's celebration paused. "New York? Carlos, I can't just uproot the boys. They're only 3. My mom is here." "Bring Sophia too," Carlos countered. "TripTech is positioned to become a major player, Amanda. You need to be where the industry is." After the call ended, Amanda found herself standing in the doorway of the living room, watching her sons. They were engaged in their typical pattern. Ethan meticulously building a structure, Noah adding imaginative elements, Mason occasionally improving it in ways that threatened collapse. "Boys," she said softly, "how would you feel about an adventure in New York City?" 4 years, Amanda. Justin's voice had lost its corporate smoothness. 4 years, and you never once thought I deserved to know? Deserved? Amanda's laugh held no humor. That's rich, coming from the man who told me a child would ruin everything and threw money at the problem. "One child," Justin hissed, careful to keep his voice down despite his agitation. "I thought you were pregnant with 1 child. Not triplets. Not 3 boys who—" He stopped, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Who what, Justin? Who look exactly like you?" Amanda stepped closer, her voice deadly quiet. "Who are living proof of what you walked away from?" His eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, Amanda glimpsed something beyond anger and entitlement, a flash of genuine regret. "They're beautiful," he said quietly. "Brilliant, from what I could see." "Yes, they are." Pride straightened Amanda's spine. "And they've done just fine without the Blackwood name or fortune." The New York office of TripTech Educational Solutions overlooked Bryant Park, its glass walls and open floor plan a testament to Amanda's belief in transparency and collaboration. 3 years after that first educational fair in Tulsa, her company employed 47 people and had contracts with school districts in 26 states. "Mama!" Mason burst into her office, trailed by his brothers and their nanny. "We made it into the special school!" Amanda looked up from her investor meeting preparation. "All 3 of you?" The nanny nodded, smiling. "All 3. The admissions director said she'd never seen triplets with such distinct learning profiles and strengths." Amanda knelt, gathering her sons into a group hug. At 3.5, they were miniature people with defined opinions and personalities. "I told them about my robot design," Ethan said seriously. "I showed them my dragon story," Noah added softly. "And I made them laugh," Mason finished triumphantly. Later that evening, after the boys were asleep in their rooms in the Upper West Side apartment that still sometimes felt unreal to Amanda, Carlos arrived with takeout and contract revisions. "The West Coast expansion is moving faster than projected," he said, spreading containers of Thai food across her kitchen island. "And the adaptive algorithm is outperforming competitors by 43%. Amanda pushed a financial projection across the counter. "And this is what it means for our valuation." Carlos whistled softly. "Blackwood Industries would fit inside your company with room to spare." Amanda's hand froze halfway to the pad Thai. "I don't measure my success against Justin." Carlos's expression turned gentle. "Don't you?" "I want to meet them," Justin said, his CEO voice slipping into something more vulnerable. "Properly meet them." Amanda studied him, this man who had once been the center of her world and was now a stranger in an expensive suit. "That's not your decision to make." "They're my sons. They're my sons," Amanda corrected sharply. "I carried them. I raised them. I built a life and a company around their needs." Justin stepped closer. "Is that why you're here? Why you chose this specific gala, this specific moment to reveal yourself? Pure coincidence that Blackwood Industries is sponsoring tonight's event?" Amanda smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "Nothing in business is coincidence, Justin. You taught me that." "Mama, who's that man looking at us?" Noah's sensitive nature had always made him the most perceptive of the triplets. Now, tucked beside Carlos at the gala table, he pointed across the ballroom to where Justin stood watching them. Carlos smoothly intercepted. "That's Mr. Blackwood. He owns the company hosting tonight's party." "He looks like us," Ethan observed with his characteristic precision. "Same chin." Mason squinted across the room. "Is he important?" Carlos's eyes met Amanda's as she rejoined them at the table. "Your mother would say that depends on how you define important." Amanda slid into her seat, instinctively checking each boy's bow tie, smoothing Noah's perpetually rumpled jacket. "That man," she said carefully, "is someone I used to know a long time ago, before you were born." "Why does he keep staring?" Noah pressed, uncomfortable with the attention. Amanda hesitated, the carefully scripted explanation she'd prepared suddenly inadequate. "Because sometimes," she finally said, "people recognize when they've lost something valuable, but only after it's gone. Like when I lost my special blue car and cried," Mason asked. Amanda smiled, genuine this time. "Something like that." Across the ballroom, Justin raised his champagne glass in a silent toast. Acknowledgement, challenge, or surrender. Amanda couldn't tell which. The moment stretched between them. 4 years of absence and growth and change compressed into a single exchange of glances. Then Ethan tugged at her sleeve with a technical question about the stage lighting. Noah needed reassurance about the crowd, and Mason was charming the Forbes reporter at the next table. Amanda turned away from Justin and back to her sons, her real empire, far more valuable than TripTech's billion-dollar valuation or the vindication of this public revelation. "Is everything okay, Mama?" Noah asked with his characteristic sensitivity. "Yes, sweetheart," Amanda answered, surprising herself with the truth of it. "Everything is exactly as it should be." "Ethan, stop organizing the cufflinks by color and put them on." Amanda adjusted Noah's bow tie for the 3rd time as the youngest triplet fidgeted nervously. "Mason, please get down from there before you wrinkle your suit." Their Upper West Side penthouse buzzed with pre-gala energy. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan's skyline, the Empire State Building glowing against the dusk. A view that still sometimes struck Amanda as belonging to someone else's life. "But they're wrong," Ethan insisted, meticulously rearranging the tiny silver accessories. The pattern doesn't make sense. I don't want to go, Noah whispered, eyes wide. Too many people. Mason continued balancing on the arm of the Italian leather sofa. Will I be on TV? Can I talk to the cameras? Sophia emerged from the guest bedroom in a midnight blue gown that transformed the practical Oklahoma nurse into an elegant matriarch. Reinforcements have arrived, she announced, hands on hips. Mason Gregory Miller, feet on the floor this instant. Ethan James, cufflinks are for wearing, not sorting. Noah William, come here, darling. The boys responded to their grandmother's tone with varying degrees of compliance. Noah immediately sought the safety of Sophia's side, while Mason dismounted with a theatrical leap, and Ethan reluctantly abandoned his color-coding project. They just need to hold it together for a few hours, Amanda said, checking her reflection in the entryway mirror. The Armani suit had been tailored to perfection, her short hair styled in a way that business magazines described as confidently feminine. It's not the boys I'm worried about, Sophia replied, giving Noah a reassuring squeeze. Are you sure about this, Amanda? Really sure? Before Amanda could answer, the penthouse door opened and Carlos Rodriguez entered, handsome in his tuxedo. The car will be ready in 20 minutes, he announced, then paused, taking in Amanda's appearance. You look formidable. That's the goal. Amanda adjusted her emerald earrings, her one extravagance after the company's first major funding round. Carlos greeted each boy with their special handshake, a complex sequence unique to each triplet that had taken him weeks to master. Gentlemen, you're looking exceptionally sharp tonight. I'm going to talk to reporters, Mason informed him. I organized my cufflinks by metallic content, Ethan added. Will it be very loud? Noah asked softly. While Sophia shepherded the boys to the kitchen for a final pre-gala snack, Carlos drew Amanda to the far side of the living room. We need to talk about tonight, he said, his normally warm voice serious. If it's about the Matsura contract, It's about Justin Blackwood. Amanda's face remained impressively neutral. What about him? I've known you for 3 years, Amanda. I know when you're plotting something. Carlos held up his phone, displaying the gala guest list. Blackwood Industries is the primary sponsor. Justin will be presenting the Entrepreneur of the Year award, an award you're receiving. Pure coincidence, Amanda said lightly. You turned down the same award from the Technology Council last month, Carlos pressed, and suddenly you're passionate about attending this particular gala with the boys? 6 months earlier, Amanda had been working late in her home office when a Forbes notification had flashed across her screen. Blackwood Industries announces major educational technology initiative. She'd clicked without thinking, then froze at Justin's familiar face staring back from the article. CEO Justin Blackwood announces Blackwood Foundation's $50 million commitment to educational technology for underprivileged schools. Amanda had laughed, the sound hollow in her empty office. After years of ignoring educational technology as low profit margin, Justin was suddenly positioning himself as its champion, just as TripTech was dominating the market. That night she'd done something she hadn't allowed herself in years. She'd researched Justin Blackwood, his corporate achievements, his carefully managed public image, his superficial relationships with socially appropriate women, none lasting more than a few months. And then she'd found it, the annual Innovation Excellence Gala sponsored by Blackwood Industries, the perfect stage for her long-awaited revelation. It's a prestigious award, Amanda told Carlos, meeting his gaze steadily. It would be foolish to decline for personal reasons. Personal reasons like revealing to Justin Blackwood that he has 3 identical sons in the most public, professionally damaging way possible? Amanda's composure slipped. He deserves it. Maybe he does, Carlos conceded. But do the boys? Amanda flinched as if struck. The boys? Have you thought about what this means for them? Carlos lowered his voice as Ethan wandered back into the living room. Tonight isn't just your confrontation with Justin. It's their introduction to the father they've never known, in front of New York's entire business elite. Ethan approached, tugging Amanda's sleeve. Mama, I calculated that if we leave in 18 minutes, we'll arrive with optimal timing accounting for Friday traffic patterns. Amanda smiled down at her methodical firstborn. That's very helpful, sweetheart. Why don't you go make sure your brothers are ready? Once Ethan was out of earshot, Amanda turned back to Carlos. I've thought about nothing else for months. The boys know we're going to meet someone important from Mama's past. They're prepared. Are they? Carlos challenged. Or are you using them as weapons in a war they didn't sign up for? Why do we need special suits? Noah had asked a week earlier as the tailor measured him. Amanda had knelt to his level, choosing her words carefully. Because we're going to a very important party where Mama is receiving an award, and there's someone there who needs to see what an amazing family we are. Is it my dad? Noah had asked with the direct simplicity of a 4-year-old. Amanda had frozen, caught off guard despite years of preparing for this inevitable question. Why would you ask that? Mason says everyone has a dad, but ours went away. Noah's eyes, so like her own, had watched her face carefully. Is he coming back? They deserve to know where they come from, Amanda told Carlos firmly. And Justin deserves to know what he walked away from. There are gentler ways to make that point. He wasn't gentle when he abandoned me, Amanda snapped, then immediately regretted it as Sophia appeared with all 3 boys in tow. The tiny gentlemen are fed, watered, and warned about behavior expectations, Sophia announced, giving Amanda a knowing look, though I suspect the adults might need reminding too. The doorman called to announce the limousine had arrived. As the group gathered coats and final necessities, Carlos caught Amanda's arm. Whatever happens tonight, he said quietly, remember that those 3 boys are watching you. The lesson you teach them about revenge versus grace will last longer than any satisfaction you get from seeing Justin's face. The limousine gleamed black against the curb, its extended length necessary to accommodate 3 booster seats alongside the adults. As the driver held the door, Amanda surveyed her family with a mixture of pride and sudden uncertainty. Sophia, regal in midnight blue. Carlos, handsomely concerned in his tuxedo. Mason, practically vibrating with excitement. Ethan, mentally calculating probabilities and patterns. Noah, bravely facing his social anxiety for his mother's sake. Mama? Noah tugged her hand. Are you scared too? Amanda bent down, meeting his eyes. A little, but being brave doesn't mean not feeling scared. It means doing important things even when they're scary. Is the man we're meeting important? Ethan asked with his characteristic precision. Amanda hesitated. He once was, to me. Will he like us? Mason's question cut to the heart of childhood insecurity. He would be a fool not to, Sophia interjected. And whatever else that man might be, he's not a fool. As they settled into the limousine's plush interior, Amanda felt a strange sense of destiny. 4 years of planning, building, preparing, all leading to this moment. Carlos sat opposite her, his expression still troubled. Last chance to reconsider. Some confrontations are inevitable, Amanda replied, her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. Some debts must be paid in person. As the limousine pulled away from the curb, she reached into her clutch, touching the small photograph hidden there, herself and Justin at a Chicago charity event, back when she'd been a naive waitress dreaming of teaching kindergarten. Her last tangible connection to the man who had shaped her life by leaving it. The New York traffic parted before them, the limousine gliding toward the Waldorf Astoria where Justin Blackwood waited, unaware that his past was about to collide spectacularly with his present. Are you ready, boys? Amanda asked, her voice stronger than she felt. 3 identical faces with Justin's jawline, and her eyes looked back at her with complete trust. Ready, they chorused, their different personalities evident even in that single word. Ethan's serious determination, Noah's quiet courage, Mason's exuberant confidence. Amanda took a deep breath, mentally rehearsing the moment one final time. Stepping from the limousine, 3 identical boys in perfect suits beside her, watching Justin's face as recognition dawned. Then let's go meet your father. The Waldorf Astoria ballroom shimmered with New York's elite, investors in bespoke suits, tech entrepreneurs in designer dresses, old money and new innovation mingling under crystal chandeliers. Justin Blackwood stood near the stage, practicing the easy confidence that had become his professional trademark. 10 minutes until your introduction, Mr. Blackwood, his assistant murmured, handing him the final version of his speech. Justin nodded absently, scanning the crowd. As primary sponsor of the Innovation Excellence Gala, he was expected to network, but his mind was on the speech, particularly the moment he would present the Entrepreneur of the Year award to Amanda Collins. Amanda Collins. The name had jolted him when the selection committee had announced it. He'd Googled her immediately but found surprisingly little personal information, just impressive professional achievements. Her company photo showed a confident woman with short hair and determined eyes, nothing like the soft-spoken waitress with education dreams he'd once known. Mr. Blackwood, there seems to be some commotion at the entrance, his assistant said, gesturing toward the ballroom doors. Justin turned, annoyed at the disruption, then froze. Standing in the doorway was Amanda. Her Armani suit and confident posture marked her as a different woman from the one he'd abandoned, but he would have known her anywhere. Beside her stood an older woman and a man Justin vaguely recognized from tech industry events. But it was the 3 small figures in perfectly tailored suits that stopped his heart. 1, 2, 3 identical boys, each with his jawline, his chin, his nose, like looking at childhood photos of himself in triplicate. Even from across the room, the resemblance was undeniable. His mind raced, calculating, 4 years since Chicago, as cameras flashed and murmurs spread through the crowd. She brought kids to the gala? The investor beside Justin sounded amused. Not just kids, replied a tech journalist, raising her phone to capture the moment. Those are identical triplets, who look remarkably like our host. Justin's glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The sound went unnoticed amid the growing buzz as recognition spread through the ballroom. Are those Blackwoods? She's the TripTech founder who, my God, they have his exact... Amanda moved through the crowd with practiced grace, the triplets forming a perfect procession behind her. Her eyes found Justin's across the room, her smile cool and victorious. Justin! His mother's voice cut through his shock. Victoria Blackwood had appeared at his elbow, her expression unreadable. I believe we have a situation. The organizer was desperately trying to maintain the gala's schedule despite the disruption. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We'll begin the awards presentation momentarily. Justin found himself mechanically moving toward the stage, speech cards clutched in a white-knuckled grip. Through the haze of shock, he watched Amanda being seated at the front table, the 3 boys, his sons, arranged beside her. Justin! Victoria's voice was low and urgent. Pull yourself together. Everyone is watching. He turned to his mother, sudden suspicion crystallizing. Did you know? Victoria's silence was answer enough. The lights dimmed. Justin stood at the podium, staring at words that suddenly made no sense. The teleprompter scrolled through his introduction, but he couldn't focus on anything except the 4 identical pairs of eyes watching him from the front table. Innovation, excellence, future. He stumbled through fragments of his prepared speech, aware he was bombing but unable to write himself. It's my honor to present Entrepreneur of the Year. Amanda rose gracefully, smoothing her perfectly tailored jacket. As she passed Justin on the stage, she whispered, "Breathe, Justin. This is just the beginning." The microphone captured her confident stride to the podium, her poised smile as she surveyed the audience. Unlike Justin, she required no notes. "Thank you for this recognition," she began, her voice steady. Innovation isn't born in boardrooms or funding rounds. True innovation is born from necessity, from moments when existing solutions fail us, and we must create new paths forward. Justin watched, transfixed, as the shy waitress he'd discarded commanded the room with effortless authority. 4 years ago, I found myself alone, pregnant, and told I would never amount to anything significant. Her eyes briefly met his. When my triplet sons were diagnosed with dyslexia as toddlers, I discovered that educational technology was failing children like them, children who process information differently. The audience was rapt. In the front row, the 3 boys watched their mother with expressions ranging from solemn pride to fidgety attention to open adoration. TripTech was born from that failure, from creating tools for my sons that eventually helped millions of children worldwide. Our success proves that sometimes our greatest challenges become our greatest opportunities, if we have the courage to face them. She didn't mention Justin by name. She didn't need to. Every glance toward her sons made the connection clear to anyone with functioning eyes. I accept this award on behalf of my team, my family, and especially my 3 remarkable sons, who taught me that sometimes what looks like the end of your story is actually just the beginning. The applause was thunderous. Amanda returned to her table, accepting congratulations with composed grace, never once looking back at Justin. Later, as guests mingled during dessert, Justin found himself gravitating toward Amanda's table like a planet pulled into orbit. The older woman, her mother, spotted him first, eyes narrowing in recognition. "Well, well," she said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Look who finally showed up." Amanda turned, champagne flute in hand. "Justin, I was wondering when you'd make your way over." The triplets looked up from their desserts, identical faces assessing him with uncanny intensity. "You have my chin," said one matter-of-factly. "And my nose," Justin replied automatically, kneeling to the boy's level. "I'm Ethan," the child informed him with precise diction. "That's Noah. He's shy. And that's Mason. He talks a lot." "I do not," protested the one identified as Mason. "I communicate effectively." Noah said nothing, pressing closer to Amanda's side. "Boys," Amanda said gently, "this is Mr. Blackwood. He's the man I told you we might meet tonight." Justin felt dozens of eyes watching this interaction, heard the hushed conversations, knew his professional reputation was unraveling with each passing second. Yet he couldn't focus on anything but these 3 perfect miniature versions of himself. "Could we speak privately?" he managed, looking up at Amanda. Her smile was glacial. "I don't think we need privacy anymore, Justin. I lived with your rejection privately for years." "They're my sons." The words emerged as a strangled whisper. "Biologically, yes." Amanda's voice remained conversational, though those nearby strained to hear. "In every other way that matters? No. You had no right to keep this from me. You had no right to throw away a pregnant woman like garbage." Her composure cracked slightly. "You told me a child would ruin everything. What would you have done with 3? Justin flinched. One of the boys, Noah, was watching him with wide, solemn eyes that somehow seemed to understand far more than a 4-year-old should. "Are you our father?" Mason asked suddenly, with the devastating directness of childhood. A hush fell over their immediate vicinity. Amanda's companion, the tech investor, Carlos something, moved protectively closer to the boys. Justin faltered, decades of media training deserting him. "Yes," Amanda answered for him, her voice gentle but firm. "Biologically he is, but he hasn't been your dad. There's a difference." "Why didn't you want us?" Ethan asked with clinical curiosity, as if inquiring about an interesting scientific fact. Justin felt the floor tilt beneath him. "I didn't know about you," he said weakly. "I didn't know there were 3 of you, or any of you." "Amanda." It was Carlos who spoke, his hand on her shoulder. "The press is watching. Think about the boys. Something in Amanda's expression softened fractionally. She looked at her sons, then back at Justin. "We'll continue this conversation another time," she said, rising gracefully. "Boys, it's past your bedtime. Say goodnight." "Good night," they chorused with varying degrees of enthusiasm. As Amanda gathered her family, Justin caught her arm. "This isn't over." "No," she agreed, her voice too low for others to hear. "It's just beginning. 4 years ago, you told me I'd never be anything more than a temporary error, Justin. I've spent every day since proving you wrong." She smiled for the benefit of watching photographers. "I hope you enjoy the rest of your gala. The irony that your company is sponsoring my award isn't lost on me." Justin watched helplessly as she walked away. 3 perfect children in her wake, living proof of the greatest mistake of his life. "Well," Victoria Blackwood said, appearing at his side, "that certainly wasn't how I imagined meeting my grandsons." Justin turned to his mother, shock crystallizing into anger. "You knew. All this time, you knew." Victoria's aristocratic features revealed nothing. "We'll discuss this later. Right now, you need to salvage what's left of this evening professionally. Tomorrow's headlines are already being written." As if on cue, Justin's phone began vibrating with notifications. The story was breaking in real time, New York's elite witness to his public unraveling. Through the crowd, he caught a final glimpse of Amanda and the boys entering the elevator. 3 identical profiles that mirrored his own, headed back into a life he had no part in. Blackwood, heir shocked by triplet sons at gala. Tech CEO's revenge. Entrepreneur reveals secret children to father. Amanda Miller's TripTech success story takes dramatic turn. The headlines screamed across every business publication and gossip site, accompanied by photos of Justin's shocked face and the unmistakable resemblance between him and the triplets. Amanda closed her laptop, rubbing her temples as she sat in her home office. 17 interview requests since midnight, Carlos announced, entering with coffee. Plus Good Morning America, Today Show, and every tech blog on the planet. "Decline them all," Amanda said firmly. "I won't discuss my children with the media. That ship sailed the moment you orchestrated last night's revelation." Carlos's voice held an edge she rarely heard from him. "The board is concerned about potential backlash." "The board?" Amanda raised an eyebrow. "Or you?" Carlos set the coffee down with deliberate care. "Both. You used your children as props in a revenge scenario, Amanda. That has consequences beyond Justin's humiliation." "I didn't use them. You absolutely did." Carlos's normally warm eyes were hard. "I've supported every decision you've made for years, but this crossed a line. You didn't just reveal the truth. You engineered a public execution." Amanda's phone buzzed for the 100th time that morning. Justin's name flashing on the screen again. She silenced it without answering. "He deserved it," she said, hating how petulant she sounded. "Maybe he did," Carlos conceded. "But did the boys?" Across town, Justin sat at the head of the Blackwood Industries conference table, facing a semicircle of grim-faced board members and PR specialists. "Our stock dropped 7 points at opening," the CFO reported. "Financial press is having a field day with this. Social media sentiment is running heavily negative," added the head of communications. "The abandoned pregnant girlfriend angle plays particularly badly with female consumers, who represent 68% of our retail division's market." Victoria Blackwood sat at the opposite end of the table, her expression unreadable. She hadn't spoken since the meeting began. "We need a statement," the PR director continued. "Something that acknowledges the situation without admitting liability. Perhaps suggesting you were unaware." "I was unaware," Justin interrupted, his voice ragged from a sleepless night. "I had no idea Amanda was pregnant with triplets." "So your official position is that you abandoned her before knowing she was pregnant with 1 child, not 3? The PR director's tone made clear how little difference this distinction would make in public opinion. Justin loosened his tie, feeling strangled. "I've been trying to reach her since last night. She won't answer. Of course she won't. Victoria finally spoke, her voice cutting through the boardroom chatter. She orchestrated this perfectly. 4 years of planning, building a competing company, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth in a way that would cause maximum damage. You knew, Justin accused, old resentments flaring. All this time, you knew I had sons. The board members exchanged uncomfortable glances as the family drama unfolded. I had her monitored after you ended things, Victoria admitted without apology. When I learned of the pregnancy, I had my people keep tabs. When the triplets were born, I maintained awareness of their situation. Maintained awareness? Justin's voice rose. They're your grandsons. And you made it abundantly clear you wanted nothing to do with her or any child, Victoria countered. What would you have had me do? Force you to acknowledge children you explicitly rejected? The board members watched in frozen silence as decades of Blackwood family dynamics played out before them. Did you ever help them? Justin asked, suddenly remembering Amanda's meteoric rise from struggling single mother to tech CEO. Did you fund her company? Victoria's slight hesitation was answer enough. Jesus Christ, Justin whispered. My own mother, secretly funding my ex's company, watching my children grow up from a distance. Children you abandoned, Victoria reminded him sharply. Don't rewrite history, Justin. You made your choice 4 years ago. The press is waiting for a statement, the PR director interjected desperately. We need to control this narrative before… Justin's phone buzzed. He grabbed it, hoping for Amanda, but finding instead a text from his assistant. Mr. Blackwood, Ms. Miller has issued a press statement. All major outlets running it now. You released a statement without consulting me? Carlos stared at Amanda, betrayal evident in his expression. The board approved it, Amanda replied, straightening papers on her desk with unnecessary precision. I'm on the board, Carlos reminded her, and I received no such communication. Amanda avoided his eyes. Emergency approval, time sensitive. Let me see it. She slid her tablet across the desk. Carlos read quickly, his expression darkening. While I never intended for my personal history with Justin Blackwood to become public, I have never hidden the truth from those who matter most. My sons. Carlos looked up. That's a blatant lie, Amanda. You told them yesterday. I told them he was someone from my past, Amanda countered weakly. My focus remains on my children's well-being and the continued success of TripTech's mission to serve students worldwide. Carlos continued reading. I ask for privacy during this time and trust that Mr. Blackwood will respect boundaries as we navigate this situation. He set the tablet down. You're positioning yourself as the victim again, after deliberately creating this situation. I am the victim, Amanda insisted. He abandoned me pregnant and alone. 4 years ago, yes. Carlos's voice softened slightly. But last night? That was all you, Amanda. You orchestrated that revelation down to the last detail. Before she could respond, Sophia appeared in the doorway, concern etched on her face. Amanda, you need to come now. The boys are watching the news. In the penthouse living room, 3 identical faces were turned toward the massive television where a news anchor was discussing the Blackwood triplets scandal over photos from the gala. Raising questions about whether Blackwood Industries CEO Justin Blackwood knew about the children before last night's dramatic revelation. That's us, Mason said, pointing at the screen. We're famous. Why do they keep showing that man's face next to ours? Ethan asked with characteristic precision. Noah simply looked between the television and Amanda, his sensitive nature already connecting dots the others hadn't. Amanda grabbed the remote, shutting off the TV. Boys, we need to talk. About our father? Noah's quiet voice cut through the room. Amanda sat on the coffee table, facing her sons on the sofa. How had she imagined this conversation would go? In her revenge fantasies, she'd focused on Justin's humiliation, not on explaining paternity to 3 4-year-olds. Yes, she admitted, about your biological father. "What's biological?" Mason asked. "It means the person whose DNA helped make you," Sophia explained, sitting beside them. "Like science class?" Ethan asked. "With the cells and the growing?" "Exactly like that," Amanda confirmed. "Justin Blackwood is your biological father, but he hasn't been part of our family. Because he didn't want us?" Noah's lower lip trembled slightly. Amanda's carefully constructed righteousness crumbled at her son's pain. "It's complicated, sweetheart." "Did he know about us?" Ethan asked with his characteristic analytical approach. Amanda hesitated. The revenge she'd savored suddenly tasted bitter. "He knew I was pregnant, but not with triplets. He chose not to be involved." "And now he wants to know us?" Mason asked, surprisingly perceptive. "I think he does," Carlos said from the doorway, his expression softening as he looked at the boys. "Do we have to see him?" Noah whispered, pressing against Sophia's side. Amanda reached out, taking Noah's small hand in hers. "No one has to do anything they don't want to do. I'll protect you, always." Her phone buzzed again. Justin, for the 27th time. She moved to silence it, but Carlos caught her eye, his expression challenging. "He's still your father," Sophia told the boys, her practical nature asserting itself. "That doesn't mean you have to love him or even like him, but it is part of who you are." "Does he like dinosaurs?" Mason asked suddenly. "I don't know," Amanda admitted. "Can he help with my science project?" Ethan wondered. "The one about genetic traits?" Amanda felt her careful control slipping. She had prepared for Justin's shock, for public vindication, for professional consequences, but not for her son's natural curiosity about their father. "He didn't love us enough to stay," Noah said, voicing the fear that had haunted Amanda for years. The room fell silent. Even Mason had no immediate response. "Noah," Amanda finally said, kneeling before her sensitive middle son. "Sometimes adults make terrible mistakes. Your father made a choice 4 years ago that hurt me very much, but that doesn't mean he can't make different choices now." "Will you let him?" Carlos asked softly. Amanda looked up, meeting his gaze. The phone in her hand buzzed again with Justin's 28th call. "Mama?" Noah's small voice refocused her attention. "Did he look sad when he saw us?" Amanda thought about Justin's face at the gala. The shock, yes, but also something else. Something that looked remarkably like grief. "Yes," she admitted. "He looked very sad." "Because he missed everything," Ethan concluded with a child's straightforward logic. "Like when I missed the class trip to the planetarium," Mason added sagely. Amanda's phone buzzed again. 29 calls. "Are you going to talk to him, Mama?" Noah asked. Amanda looked at her sons, these 3 miracles who had driven every decision, every achievement of the past 4 years. She had told herself the revenge was for them, but in this moment, facing their innocent questions, she could no longer pretend. This hadn't been for them, it had been for her. She pressed the answer button. "Justin," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We need to talk." The private garden tucked behind the Metropolitan Museum of Art was empty except for 2 figures seated on opposite ends of a stone bench. Despite the spring sunshine, the air between them felt arctic. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Justin said, his CEO voice absent, replaced by something rawer. "I'm here because my sons have questions I can't answer," Amanda replied, hands folded precisely in her lap. She'd deliberately chosen neutral territory, a secluded garden reserved for museum patrons, accessible through private membership. "Our sons," Justin corrected quietly. "Biology doesn't make you a father." "No," he agreed, surprising her, "but it does make me something more than a stranger." Amanda studied him in the clear morning light. 4 years had added subtle lines around his eyes, a touch of gray at his temples. The corporate mask had slipped, revealing something she hadn't expected: vulnerability. "Why did you never try to find me?" she asked, the question that had burned for years finally escaping. Justin's laugh was hollow. Find you? You disappeared completely. Changed your name, your number. The apartment manager said you'd moved out overnight. I was evicted, Amanda corrected coldly. 2 weeks after you left. Your generous check didn't cover the penalties for breaking the lease. Justin flinched. I thought you'd taken care of it. The pregnancy? Amanda's voice sharpened. Is that what we're calling our children now? It? I didn't know they were children, plural, Justin countered, a flash of his old defensive arrogance surfacing. I thought, what? That I'd conveniently abort and disappear? Amanda stood, pacing before the bench. That your mistake would vanish with $100,000 and a eviction notice? That's not fair. Fair? Amanda's carefully constructed composure cracked. Let me tell you about fair, Justin. Fair is delivering 3 premature babies alone while your mother works night shifts to help pay medical bills. Fair is teaching yourself programming at 2 a.m. because your children have special needs the system can't address. Fair is explaining to 3 little boys why they don't have a father when everyone else does. Justin remained seated, absorbing each verbal blow. I can't change what happened, he said finally, but I want to know them now. Convenient timing, Amanda shot back, now that they're healthy, successful reflections of you. Where were you during the colic and the emergency room visits and the developmental assessments? I didn't know. Justin stood suddenly, towering over her. I didn't know about the triplets, Amanda. I've been many things in my life, selfish, arrogant, cruel, but I have never lied to you. You told me I was nothing, Amanda whispered, the old wound still raw. A temporary error, a waitress from Oklahoma who would never amount to anything. Justin's shoulders slumped. I said those things to make you hate me, to make it easier. Easier for whom? For me, he admitted, the simple truth hanging between them. I was a coward. My mother, the board. They were pressuring me about succession planning, appropriate marriages, the Blackwood legacy. I panicked. So you threw me away. Yes. The single syllable contained volumes of regret. But I never knew about the triplets. You have to believe that. Amanda turned away, gazing at the carefully manicured garden. It doesn't matter what I believe. You made your choice. If I had known? What? Amanda spun back. If you had known, what would you have done differently? Thrown more money at the problem? Offered some kind of custody arrangement where your mother could trot out the Blackwood heirs at appropriate society functions? Justin had no answer. I built a life without you, Amanda continued, her voice steadying. A good life. The boys are thriving. They have a grandmother who adores them, a godfather who shows up for every school event, a home filled with love. They also have a father, Justin said quietly, whether you acknowledge it or not. Biology isn't fatherhood, Amanda repeated. Then give me a chance to be more than biology. Justin stepped closer. Let me earn the right to know them. Amanda's laugh was bitter. So I should reward your abandonment with access to the children you rejected? You should recognize that punishing me also punishes them, Justin countered. They have a right to know where they come from, Amanda, even if where they come from is deeply flawed. Amanda fell silent, Carlos's words echoing in her mind. Are you using them as weapons in a war they didn't sign up for? Noah asked if you looked sad, she said finally, when you saw them at the gala. Justin's expression shifted, something raw and genuine breaking through. Which one is Noah? The middle one, the sensitive one. Amanda's protective instinct flared. The one who feels everything too deeply, who worries about everyone, who has anxiety stomach aches before school events. He has your eyes, Justin said softly. All of them do, but he has your expression in them. He's the most vulnerable, Amanda warned. If you hurt him, I won't. The vehemence in Justin's voice surprised them both. You can't promise that, Amanda said. You've already hurt them by not being there. Then let me try to make it right. Justin ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of discomposure from the polished CEO. I'm not asking to play happy families, Amanda. I'm asking for a chance to know my sons, to let them know me, flaws and all. Amanda studied him, searching for the manipulative charm that had once swept her off her feet. Instead, she found something she hadn't expected, genuine desperation. Did your mother know? She asked suddenly. About the pregnancy? Justin's expression hardened. Apparently, she's known everything from the beginning. Had you monitored, tracked the boy's development? Amanda felt the ground shift beneath her. What? Victoria Blackwood has been aware of her grandson's existence from day one, Justin confirmed grimly, and kept it from me. That's impossible, Amanda whispered. We struggled. There were times I couldn't afford formula for 3 babies, when I had to choose between rent and medical bills. Justin's face darkened. According to my mother, she made anonymous contributions to your hospital costs, and later, investments in your company. Triptech's first angel investor, Amanda said slowly, pieces clicking into place. The silent partner who came in through a shell corporation based in the Caymans. That would be my mother's style, Justin confirmed bitterly. Help you just enough to ensure her bloodline survived, but not enough to make you comfortable or bring you back into my life. Amanda sank back onto the bench, memories realigning. The mysterious scholarship fund that had covered the triplets' specialized preschool. The unexpected insurance settlement for a minor car accident that had precisely matched what she'd needed for first and last month's rent on a new apartment. She was watching us, Amanda said, the realization chilling. All this time. Protecting the Blackwood legacy, Justin said with bitter familiarity. It's what she does, what she's always done. But why keep it from you? Amanda asked, genuine confusion breaking through her anger. She's always been obsessed with the Blackwood name, with heirs. 3 identical grandsons would have been a complication, came a crisp voice from behind them. They both turned to find Victoria Blackwood standing at the garden entrance, elegant in a tailored dove-gray suit that matched her perfectly styled hair. Mother, Justin's voice went cold. This is a private conversation. A conversation about me, it seems. Victoria approached with measured steps. I believe that entitles me to participate. Amanda stood, instinctively moving to Justin's side in unified opposition to this new threat. The unconscious alliance wasn't lost on Victoria, whose aristocratic features registered momentary surprise before settling back into practiced neutrality. Mrs. Blackwood, Amanda acknowledged stiffly. Ms. Miller. Victoria nodded. Or do you prefer Collins? You've used both over the years. The casual reference to years of surveillance made Amanda's skin crawl. You've been watching us. Monitoring, Victoria corrected, as if the distinction mattered. Ensuring the well-being of my grandsons. Without telling me they existed, Justin interjected. Victoria turned to her son, something almost like regret crossing her face. You made your position on fatherhood abundantly clear, Justin. A child would ruin everything. I believe those were your exact words. Justin flinched. I was repeating what you told me. And you believed it, Victoria replied simply. You chose the company over Ms. Miller and any potential children. I merely respected that choice. While secretly funding my company, Amanda said, pieces continuing to align. Why? Victoria smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her impeccable sleeve. The boys are Blackwoods, regardless of the name they bear. I could hardly allow them to struggle unnecessarily. But you allowed us to struggle enough, Amanda observed sharply. Just enough hardship to build character, is that it? A ghost of approval flickered across Victoria's face. You've done remarkably well with very little assistance, Ms. Miller. Better than I anticipated, if I'm being honest. You had no right, Justin said, voice shaking with barely controlled fury. "They're my sons. Sons you explicitly rejected," Victoria reminded him coldly. "I was protecting them from your ambivalence." "Or protecting the company from scandal," Amanda countered, "making sure your CEO's son wasn't distracted by inconvenient children." Victoria's gaze, so like Justin's in its intensity, fixed on Amanda. A convenient interpretation that allows you to maintain your victim narrative. The three of them stood in the garden, generations of choices and consequences hanging in the spring air between them. "I want to meet them," Victoria said finally. "Properly meet them. They are, after all, my only grandchildren." Amanda laughed, the sound brittle with disbelief. "You want to meet them? After 4 years of shadow puppetry and manipulation?" "I want to know them," Victoria corrected, "as does their father. The question, Ms. Miller, is whether your desire for revenge outweighs what's best for the boys." Amanda felt the trap closing. The elegant patrician woman had outmaneuvered her with a few carefully chosen words. Because the truth was undeniable. The triplets deserved to know their heritage, complicated as it was. "This isn't about what I want," Amanda said finally. "It's about what they need." "And what do they need?" Justin asked softly, the question more genuine than she'd expected. Amanda looked between mother and son, the Blackwood legacy personified. The empire that had once seemed so far above her, that had crushed her beneath its weight, now stood waiting for her decision. "Honesty," she said finally. "They need honesty. From all of us." "Honesty," Victoria repeated, testing the word as if it were a foreign concept. An admirable sentiment, though rarely practical in family matters. The private garden had become a battlefield of sorts, with Amanda and the two Blackwoods locked in a triangle of tension. Spring flowers bloomed indifferently around them, their beauty a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil unfolding. "I've spent 4 years protecting my sons from exactly this kind of manipulation," Amanda said, refusing to back down under Victoria's imperious gaze. "Is that what you call orchestrating a public revelation at a gala?" Victoria's perfectly arched eyebrow conveyed volumes of aristocratic disdain. Interesting definition of protection. Justin stepped between them. "Enough. This isn't helping." "On the contrary," Victoria replied. "Ms. Miller needs to understand that her moral high ground isn't quite as elevated as she imagines. And you need to understand that those boys aren't Blackwood acquisitions," Amanda fired back. "You can't just decide 4 years later that you want to claim them." Victoria's composed exterior cracked slightly. "I never stopped claiming them. Who do you think ensured their NICU bills were covered? Or that miraculous scholarship to the dyslexia specialty preschool materialized?" "Mother," Justin began, but Victoria continued. "Who do you think prevented the tabloids from discovering your pregnancy when that nosy nurse recognized Justin from a magazine cover? Or ensured your initial business loan was approved despite your non-existent credit history?" Amanda felt her certainties wavering. "You've been manipulating our lives from the shadows." "I've been protecting my grandsons while respecting my son's choices," Victoria corrected. "However misguided those choices were." Justin ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration that made him look suddenly younger. "Why keep it from me? All these years, why the secrecy?" Victoria turned to her son, something softening in her expression. "Because you weren't ready, Justin. You made that abundantly clear." "That wasn't your decision to make." "Wasn't it?" Victoria's voice sharpened. "You who panicked at the notion of one child and threw away a woman you claimed to love? You who've spent the last 4 years building the company while cycling through socially appropriate girlfriends who never last longer than a fiscal quarter?" Justin flinched as if struck. "I did what you couldn't," Victoria continued, her voice lowering. "I ensured the Blackwood line was protected without forcing you into fatherhood before you were capable of it." Amanda watched the interplay between mother and son with growing understanding. For all her cold manipulation, Victoria Blackwood had been protecting both the triplets and Justin in her own twisted way. You don't get to decide when a man is ready for the children he created, Amanda said, finding her voice again. Someone had to make decisions, Victoria replied simply. Justin abdicated that responsibility. You were struggling to survive. I did what was necessary. For the Blackwood legacy, Amanda said bitterly. For 3 innocent boys who deserved some connection to their heritage, however distant. Victoria's aristocratic facade slipped further, revealing something almost human beneath. Do you think I enjoyed watching my grandsons from quarterly photographs and surveillance reports? That I didn't ache to hold them? The admission hung in the spring air, unexpected and raw. Then why stay away? Justin asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Victoria turned to her son, something like regret crossing her features. Because I raised you to prioritize the company above all else. To see emotional attachments as liabilities. Her voice faltered. I couldn't very well criticize you for following my example. Amanda found herself suddenly seeing Victoria Blackwood through a different lens, not just as the manipulative matriarch but as a woman trapped by her own rigid principles. You're not entirely wrong, Amanda admitted reluctantly. The boys do deserve to know their heritage, but on my terms, not yours. Your terms, Victoria repeated. And what might those be? Amanda looked between mother and son, these Blackwoods who had shaped her life from afar, for better and worse. Supervised visits, limited time, no public announcements or press releases about the Blackwood heirs. Amanda's voice strengthened with each condition. My sons have lives, routines, security. I won't have that disrupted for your convenience or corporate image. Reasonable terms, Victoria acknowledged with a slight nod. I'm not finished, Amanda continued. No lawyers, no custody battles. No attempts to buy their affection with extravagant gifts or opportunities. They will know you as people first, before they understand your wealth or position. Justin nodded slowly. I want to know them, Amanda. Not claim them or control them. And the Blackwood name? Victoria asked, ever practical. That's for the boys to decide when they're old enough, Amanda stated firmly. Not now, not as children. An uneasy truce settled over the garden as the 3 adults considered this new landscape. When? Justin asked simply. Amanda hesitated, then made a decision she'd been contemplating since the boys' questions the previous night. This afternoon, at the penthouse, 4 o'clock. Justin's eyes widened. Today? Before I change my mind, Amanda said, and before the press finds another angle to exploit. Victoria straightened her already perfect posture. I'll have my assistant clear my schedule. No, Amanda said firmly. Not you, not yet. Justin first. Alone. Victoria's mouth tightened, but she gave a short nod of acquiescence. As you wish. As they prepared to leave the garden sanctuary, Victoria placed a hand on Amanda's arm, the first physical contact between them. You've done remarkably well with them, she said, her voice lower, almost confidential. Better than I might have, in your position. Coming from Victoria Blackwood, it was perhaps the highest praise possible. The penthouse was unnaturally quiet when Amanda returned. Sophia sat in the living room, her nurse's training evident in her calm watchfulness as the triplets played nearby. How bad was it? She asked softly as Amanda set down her purse. Complicated, Amanda replied. Victoria Blackwood has been monitoring us from the beginning. She was our mystery investor. Sophia's eyes widened. That cold-blooded barracuda in Chanel? The very same. Amanda sank onto the sofa. She claims she was protecting the boys while respecting Justin's choice to leave. And you believe her? I believe she did what she thought was necessary, Amanda said carefully. For the Blackwood legacy, if not for the boys themselves. Mason looked up from his elaborate block construction. Did you see our father again? The direct question silenced the room. Noah stopped coloring, his anxious gaze finding Amanda's face. Ethan paused his methodical arrangement of toy cars, analyzing her expression. "Yes," Amanda admitted. "And he'd like to meet you. Properly meet you, this afternoon if that's okay." "Here?" Ethan clarified, always needing precise information. "Yes, here, where you feel safe." Amanda looked at each son in turn. "But only if you want to." "Will he bring presents?" Mason asked pragmatically. "Mason!" Sophia scolded. "It's a legitimate inquiry," Ethan defended his brother. "New acquaintances often bring social offerings." "He might," Amanda acknowledged, "but that's not why he's coming." "Why is he coming?" Noah's soft voice carried underlying anxiety. Amanda moved to sit on the floor with them, gathering her thoughts carefully. "Because he just found out he has 3 amazing sons, and he wants to know you." "But he didn't want us before," Noah pointed out, cutting to the heart of the matter. Amanda took a deep breath, choosing honesty over protection. "He made a mistake, a very big one, and now he's trying to fix it, though some mistakes can't be completely fixed." "Like when I broke Grandma's crystal bird," Mason offered. "I said sorry, but it was still broken." "Something like that," Amanda agreed. Ethan frowned, processing. "If he's our biological father, does that mean we have to love him?" "No," Amanda said firmly. "You don't have to feel anything you don't want to feel. You can just meet him and decide for yourselves." "Will you be mad if we like him?" Noah asked, his sensitive nature detecting the complexities of adult emotions. Amanda's heart clenched. "No, sweetheart, I want you to make your own decisions about people." "Will he be in our family now?" Mason wondered, already rearranging his mental picture of their unit. "That depends on a lot of things," Amanda answered truthfully. "On him, on you boys, on time and trust. But family isn't just about biology. Carlos isn't related to us, but he's family, right?" This the boys understood, nodding in unison. "I have calculated 27 questions to determine his suitability," Ethan announced seriously. "I want to show him my dinosaur collection," Mason decided. Noah said nothing, but moved closer to Amanda, leaning against her side. Sophia watched the scene with glistening eyes. "I'll make myself scarce when he arrives." "Actually," Amanda said, "I'd like you to stay. The boys need everyone who loves them here." At precisely 4 o'clock, the penthouse doorbell rang. Amanda took a steadying breath, then went to answer it, her sons waiting in the living room. 3 identical faces with very different expressions, about to meet the man who had helped create them. Justin stood in the hallway, no expensive gift in hand, just a simple book titled Understanding Dyslexia, and an expression of genuine vulnerability that no board meeting had ever witnessed. "They're ready to meet you," Amanda said, stepping aside to let him in. "Are you ready to meet them?" 6 weeks later, Amanda sat on a Central Park bench, a gentle May breeze rustling the new leaves overhead. 20 yards away, Justin knelt in the grass with the triplets, his designer suit pants collecting stains that would horrify his tailor. "You need to hold it like this," Ethan instructed, adjusting Justin's grip on the model rocket they'd brought. "The aerodynamic principles require precise positioning." "Will it really go all the way to the moon?" Justin asked with exaggerated wonder. "No," Ethan replied seriously. "It's a scale model with limited propulsion capabilities. Maximum altitude approximately 100 feet. "But we can pretend," Noah added softly, his initial wariness of Justin gradually thawing over their weekly visits. Mason circled them impatiently. "Less talking, more launching." Amanda smiled despite herself. After the awkward first meeting, Justin sitting stiffly on her sofa answering Ethan's methodical questions while Noah observed from a safe distance and Mason demonstrated every toy he owned, a routine had gradually emerged. Sunday afternoons belonged to Justin and the triplets, carefully supervised at first, now with Amanda maintaining a respectful distance. "They're warming up to him," Carlos observed, appearing with 2 coffee cups and settling beside her. "Faster than I expected," Amanda admitted, accepting the coffee. though Noah still keeps his emotional distance. Smart kid. Gets that from his mother. Amanda smiled ruefully. Is that a compliment or criticism? Observation, Carlos replied. You've both built walls for good reason. They watched as the rocket launched with a satisfying whoosh, the triplets cheering with varying degrees of enthusiasm, Mason jumping wildly, Ethan analyzing the trajectory, Noah smiling quietly at Justin's exaggerated amazement. I didn't expect him to be so patient with them, Amanda said softly. Did you want him to fail? Carlos asked, his tone gentle rather than accusatory. Amanda considered the question honestly. At first, yes. I wanted vindication that he was exactly the selfish man who abandoned me. She sighed. It would be easier if he were. Easier to hate him? Easier to protect them from him, she corrected. Every time Ethan explains something and Justin actually listens, every time he remembers that Noah needs warning before transitions, every time he manages Mason's energy without shutting him down, it gets harder to justify keeping him at a distance. Carlos studied her profile. That's not necessarily a bad thing, Amanda. Isn't it? She turned to him. For 4 years, I've built my life, my entire identity, around proving Justin wrong, around being everything he said I couldn't be. What happens when that motivation is gone? You keep being extraordinary for better reasons, Carlos said simply. For yourself, for the boys, for the millions of kids your technology helps. The rocket descended, landing near a cluster of picnickers who applauded good-naturedly. Justin high-fived each boy, his interaction with each subtly different, firm for Ethan, gentle for Noah, enthusiastic for Mason. He was learning them, Amanda realized, learning their distinct personalities beneath the identical exteriors. I've been meaning to ask, Justin said later as they walked along the reservoir path, the boys running ahead with Carlos. Why Triptech? The name. Amanda smiled slightly. Isn't it obvious? 3 identical inspirations. Ah, Justin nodded. I thought perhaps a trip back to prove me wrong. That too, Amanda admitted. I was angry for a long time, Justin. You had every right to be. They walked in silence for several moments, the spring air filled with the sounds of weekend park-goers. Victoria asks about them constantly, Justin said eventually. She's respecting your boundaries, but it's killing her. Amanda sighed. I know. Ethan asked about her yesterday. He remembers her from the gala. Says she had interesting jewelry and excellent posture. Justin laughed, the sound genuine. That's my mother in a nutshell. She can come next Sunday, Amanda said, the decision made suddenly yet feeling inevitable. But the same rules apply. No extravagant gifts, no talk of legacies or Blackwood traditions. Thank you. The simple gratitude in Justin's voice was unfamiliar, the entitled CEO momentarily absent. They reached a bend in the path where they could see the boys engaged in some complex game with Carlos involving counting steps and jumping at specific intervals. Ethan's creation, undoubtedly. I keep thinking about what you said that day in the garden, Justin said, his voice quieter. About honesty. Amanda glanced at him, surprised by his thoughtful tone. I've built my entire adult life on strategic omissions and corporate doublespeak, he continued. I'm not sure I even know how to be completely honest anymore. You could start by being honest with yourself, Amanda suggested, about what you really want from all this. Justin watched the triplets, something vulnerable crossing his features. I want to know them, really know them, not just as extensions of myself or the Blackwood name, but as the remarkable little people they are. He turned to face her directly. I want to be worthy of being in their lives, Amanda, even if I can never make up for the years I missed. Amanda studied him. This new Justin who knelt in grass stains and launched toy rockets and listened to a 4-year-old explain aerodynamics with genuine interest. And what do you want from me? She asked, the question that had hung between them for weeks. Forgiveness would be too much to ask, Justin acknowledged. But perhaps A clean slate? Not for what was, but for what could be. As co-parents, if nothing else. Amanda thought about the elaborate revenge she'd planned for years, the vindication she'd expected to feel seeing Justin brought low. The reality had been both more complex and more mundane, not a dramatic villain defeated, but a flawed man facing his mistakes and trying imperfectly to do better. "I think we can manage that," she said finally. A clean slate. The following Sunday, Amanda's penthouse filled with an unlikely gathering. Victoria Blackwood, elegant as always but softer somehow, sat on the floor despite her designer suit, examining Ethan's rock collection with genuine interest. Sophia hovered nearby, her nurse's watchfulness never quite off duty, especially where Victoria was concerned. Carlos and Justin stood by the window in surprisingly companionable conversation, their mutual love for the triplets creating an unexpected bridge between them, and the boys themselves moved through the space with the easy confidence of children who felt secure in being loved, if sometimes confused by the complicated adult relationships around them. "They've taken to her faster than I expected," Sophia murmured, joining Amanda in the kitchen where she prepared coffee. "Your boys have terrible taste in Blackwoods." Amanda smiled, watching Victoria earnestly examining a piece of granite through Ethan's toy microscope. "They see the person beneath the Chanel and manipulation. The person who secretly supported you for years," Sophia reminded her, in her own twisted, controlling way. "I'm still working through my feelings about that," Amanda admitted. Noah approached, tugging Amanda's sleeve. "Mama, can I show Victoria my special book, the one about feelings?" Amanda's heart swelled at her sensitive son reaching out in his own way. "Of course, sweetheart. I think she'd like that." As Noah led Victoria to his bookshelf, Mason's voice rose in characteristic excitement. "And then we can all go on the boat. Justin said there's a lake with boats." "I said maybe," Justin corrected gently, "if your mother approves." All eyes turned to Amanda, the unexpected family awaiting her verdict. 4 years ago, she could never have imagined this scene. These people together in one room, connected by 3 remarkable boys with Justin's jawline and her eyes. "We'll see," she said, diplomatic rather than dismissive. "Maybe next weekend." Later, as the impromptu gathering began to disperse, Amanda found herself alone with Justin in the entryway. "Thank you," he said simply, "for today, for every Sunday, for raising 3 incredible human beings." Amanda studied him, the man who had once shattered her world and was now carefully finding a place at its edges. "They are pretty incredible," she agreed. "Like their mother," Justin added quietly. The compliment hung between them, not flirtation, but genuine respect. Something shifted in Amanda's chest, a loosening of the knot she'd carried for 4 years. "Next Sunday," she said. "The boat in Central Park might be nice if the weather holds." Justin's smile was understated but genuine. "I'll make the arrangements." After he left, Amanda stood in her quiet entryway, listening to the sounds of her sons chattering in the living room. Carlos and Sophia were helping them prepare for bed, Victoria having departed with promises of botanical garden tickets for next month. Amanda touched the small scar on her chin, a habit from moments of reflection. The revenge she had plotted for years had transformed into something unexpected, not the destruction of Justin Blackwood, but the creation of something new. Not a family in the traditional sense, but a constellation of people connected by 3 remarkable boys. She walked to the living room doorway, watching as Mason dramatically reenacted the day's highlights. Ethan corrected his factual inaccuracies, and Noah quietly absorbed it all. 4 years ago, heartbroken and pregnant on a Chicago apartment floor, she had promised herself that Justin would regret abandoning her every day for the rest of his life. In a way, he would. The regret of missing those precious early years could never be erased. But revenge, Amanda was discovering, tasted less sweet than she had imagined. What satisfied her soul was not Justin's public humiliation or professional discomfort, but the sight of Noah cautiously sharing his treasured book with Victoria, Ethan patiently explaining his rock categorization system to his father, Mason extracting promises of adventures from every adult in reach, her sons confidently navigating a world that now included all parts. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.